Good morning. All right. Figure out come to you guys from the greenhouse this morning. I'm not sure. I can see the plants behind me. How are y'all doing this morning? A little annoyed this morning. Not sure precisely how much humor you're going to get out of me this morning. So while I was live streaming yesterday, I got a pop-up. Get these pop-ups, and I didn't read it. I knew it was something bad. Hey, good morning, Lynn. Good morning, Ish. I got a pop-up, and you know, sometimes you get a pop-up on these things. You just kind of glance at it, and you get the gist of it, but you don't pay attention. Good morning, Diane. And I just saw some new leaf was going to be illegal. Some new leaf the DEA was going after. So, and I didn't really pay attention to it. I try to stay focused. Focus, as you get older, is hard to do. Especially with so much going on, so much nonsense in so many areas, it's kind of hard to focus on all the different areas of crazy. But, so this morning I want to talk about, we dealt with it last year. And I thought it went away, but it didn't go away apparently. So Kratom came back, and they want to try to outlaw a new leaf from a plant called Kratom. And so I put in the title what I titled this little talk. It's I'm entitling Ask Your Grandmother. Ask your grandfather, ask your uncles or your aunts, somebody attached to what we've always eaten in human history. Well, actually, let me say it the other way. Ask your doctor. Doctors have great equipment that we don't have. Doctors have training that we don't have. I've said it before, I said it again. I'm not anti-doctor. I'm anti-ignorance. Ignorance comes along with every profession. Whether you're a politician, you're a doctor, you're a police officer, you're a teacher, you're in a political party, whatever it is, there's ignorance everywhere, and you have to slay ignorance. Like, that's the whole point of this. It's the whole point of intelligence and intellect, not grouping up with people and agreeing with something because they're in your group. That's stupidity, right? So you gotta ask your doctor, because they have the equipment, they have the diagnosis, they've studied, they can tell you the things that an herbalist, a naturopath, a shaman, your grandmother, they can't tell you, to find out what the heck is wrong with you. But then after that, you ask your grandmother, Grandma, what did you do? You know what grandma's gonna reply with? For some of y'all whose grandma's still alive, I don't have any left, but ask your mother. They might still remember, well, grandma used to rub this on you. Grandma used to do this. And grandma used to eat this leaf. Grandma used to do something. And then you take approach down that natural path. The absolute last thing you want to do is put anything alien in your body. And for those of you who know what I'm talking about synthetic drugs, right? So let's go back and thank you. I see that, Lisa. I appreciate you posting what Kratom is. And so Kratom is mostly used for pain relief, right? And we're in the middle of an opioid crisis, but it's not an opioid crisis to everybody, right? It's an opioid crisis to us. It's an opioid crisis to people who give a damn about people. It's an opioid crisis in impoverished areas, in the trailer parks and the ghettos, with the troops, with the seniors, you know, and the people who give a damn about them. It's not an opioid crisis when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry. It's not an opioid crisis when it comes to the DEA. These are profit schemes based on profit motives, right? They don't really give a damn about the people who are dying, and they can't. Hey, good morning, Mary. And now it's obvious why. And so I watched, and it was a Truth Stream. I love Truth Stream. I love these people, man. I love them to death. And I didn't watch the video. So I remember last year, some of you guys, well, not some, all, when they tried to outlaw Kratom last year, and they asked the public for their response. We all because all of us did, right? We all went out to that website and we all put our comments in there, because this isn't about Kratom, and it's not about cannabis, and it's not about any of the natural medicine. It's about all of them. It's not about kava. It's about all of them. These are all plants that we've always eaten. And so, good morning, Chris. And so, I mentioned it before, and I unfortunately, people don't follow your train of thought unless you take them there. And I still have friends who are still in the belief that the war on drugs is about protecting people. It's about helping people. They know someone who died from, a heroin overdose, right? I think it was like 40 people just died from a bad batch of heroin. I forgot where that was just recently. So why do people take heroin? For pain, right? We have a whole country full of people with physical pain, mental illness, all different types of problems. Troops who come back, police officers, people, the elderly is a big one, right? And so you have all of these industries that are lined up that make money from sick people. And it's like my critique of the pharmaceutical industry. They don't want you to die. This is not about death necessarily. They want you to be just sick enough so that you stay alive and you keep taking their drugs your whole life, which, dawned the new ideology, the idea that there are drugs that you should put in your body your entire life. You'll take this medication for the rest of your life. If a doctor ever tells you that you need to take a synthetic drug for the rest of your life, it's not a doctor. That's a chemist, and that's somebody that has real issues with your health. And let me explain why. So the big war that's happening right now between plants and synthetic compounds, right? Every plant makes a compound. Every plant on the planet, they all make a set of unique compounds. And even within those types of plants, those family of plants, they still even make different types of compounds. And even within those family of plants that make particular compounds, they make different percentages of those compounds. And so there is no definitives, right? We like to group things because that's how our brain works. It's easier for us to work in a world where absolutely nothing is the same. Calling a tomato, calling, cannabis, calling kratom. So, but these plants all make compounds. They evolved the ability to do this over millions of years of just exposure to the environment, right? This goes back to the whole botanist, epigenetics, and even human cells, how we look at our environment, we determine, what the heck we have to do, and we do it. The plant determines that it's getting attacked by an aphid, so it makes a compound to call a ladybug to eat the aphid. And that's what plants have evolved to do. Just the way we evolved to do it, right? Which is why, when you raise kids in bad environments, you get warriors. You don't get human beings that live in peaceful societies. You get warriors that want to fight with police and fight with, I guess, Black Lives Matter and Nazis and all this crazy stuff. Everything's constantly evolving on the macro and micro scale. And so plants evolve to make these compounds. Now, after the ladybug comes, eats the aphid, it's gone. That compound stays, it stays within the tissue of that plant. Along comes a mammal, which is us, y'all. I don't still debate with anybody who says, oh, well, it was. I'm not doing a religious thing this morning. I'm not doing a religious versus science thing. Y'all know me. They're the same damn thing. But our livers, our hearts, our bodies, our immune system, our brain, everything came from mammals. All of it. Whether you believe the dust of the earth was some dust and bacteria, God borrowed, it doesn't matter. It's all same thing. We got the same DNA, right? So eating these plants step back just a little bit. So every process in our body evolved to solve problems on compounds that were in our bodies. What compounds were in our bodies? Well, first of all, what am I talking about problems? Problems, cancer, leukemia, cardiovascular disease. I mean, some of these things didn't exist because we didn't eat the things that caused them back then, but just as an example. So if the body didn't learn how to fix that problem, that species died, or that strain of species died. Survival of the fittest. That's how it all works. So eating the compounds that we did, because we ate kratom, we ate cannabis, we ate dark leafy greens. You ever hear, anytime someone wants to tell you improve your health, eat dark leafy greens, eat greens? Why do they keep saying, why are greens like a superfood? Why are leaves so important? Why does the Bible even say that leaves are your medicine? Why? Simply for the fact that it's what you ate. If you were a mammal, what was the easiest thing to eat? You ate mostly leaves. Every now and then when something was in season, you got a fruit, you got a vegetable, but you ate mostly leaves. So we are creatures that survived on diets, probably 90-some% of just water and leaves, which is why all health and medicine and strength and everything your body needs comes from leaves. That was a long explanation, but I'm trying to walk you into what I'm saying. And so these are natural compounds in their natural form, and they are ridiculously healing because they are what the microbiology in your body, hundreds of billions of them, and the 700 trillion cells all evolved to fix the problems that you go to your doctor for when you eat those leaves. In walks synthetic drugs. See, the biggest problem with pharmaceutical companies, they can't make money off of anything natural. They have to patent it so no one else can grow it. And so if they can patent it, I'm sorry, I got a truck driving behind me. So if they can patent it, you know, they take the natural compound. This is the active ingredient in this leaf that they think fixes a problem. But they can't sell that compound. They have to make their own. And so these very special people go through different chemical processes, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not going to go to that level, but they make something that's pretty darn close. Well, they think it's pretty darn close, right? In terms of it has the same elements, not necessarily the same structure, but the same elements, right? At a level that we can see. They don't go to the atomic level. They don't deal with any biophotons. They don't, all the other new sciences, they're not paying attention to, epigenetics. And so this compound, synthetic compound, that's kind of sort of like the natural one, they give it to you. And you know what the word side effect is? First of all, side effect doesn't exist. There is no side effect. It is an actual effect. Because when you put that synthetic thing in your body, it is an alien. Let's process this compound that has never existed on the face of the planet that's patentable. They made something that's alien. Nothing on this planet has ever eaten it. Nothing has ever seen it. The microbiology in your body don't know what the hell it is. The cells in the human body have no idea what the hell it is. Your liver, your heart, nothing knows what this synthetic compound is. And this is why they can make money on it. You can make the argument it's like going to the moon, them coming back. You know when they brought the first moon rocks back, you know they brought those back and they kept them in contamination proof canisters, and they had all these processes for moving them because they didn't want anything to actually interact with these alien compounds and minerals and dust and things that they have no idea, you know, what kind of effect it would cause on a human body. Why would they do that? Well, one, because they were a hell of a lot smarter than we were. Because what we're basically doing, we're taking these alien compounds made by pharmaceutical companies, chemical companies, and we're putting them in our bodies that have never, ever been exposed to them. And then they convince you that this is not an experiment. Think about that. And the reason why I had to go through synthetic versus natural. Natural has no side effects. Why? Because you've eaten it. The microbiology in your body and everything knows how to break it down. It knows how to utilize it because it's seen it, and it has memory, and it knows what that is. And so these things don't bounce around and end up in your breast tissue and your brain tissue and everywhere, causing all kind of problems because your white blood cells, your macrophages, can't break it down. And I appreciate y'all sharing this. I do, because people need to know this. People need to process this. And I'm not a scientist. You know, I am a person who is good at spotting BS. That's all I am. And I got a lot of extra time so I can study anything I want, do a lot of research. So the pharmaceutical companies have to make something synthetic to make a lot of money. And so what they've been working on, it's back since we were all posting about the benefits of leaving the plant kingdom alone and not banning plants, the ignorant habits. We all did that for Kratom last year. Well, now we know why. Because they got these 3 new opioid drugs that are coming out. They've synthesized, there's a compound they think is the most active compound in Kratom called, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but it starts with an M. I posted it, y'all can see it. Michigraine, whatever it's called. So they all got, and I don't go too much down into the whole compound level because everybody thinks they know. And my basis is, if you don't know, shut the hell up. That's my basis. If you don't know, just say you think. So they think that this is the compound. But of course, that compound that they synthesize won't be in the drugs with all the other compounds that are in the plants. And so you get them out of percentages. Uh-oh, I'm sorry. That's my sister. Let me mute my phone. All right, that's better. Right, so you're not eating it in a natural form. And this gets back to a lot of the research on vitamins and how you got to be careful with your vitamins and your supplements, because if they aren't in similar forms or they're not sold with fat, that the vitamins actually don't do you any benefit. Your body can't absorb, I think it was vitamin C or vitamin K, whichever one it was I was looking at. And so all of this, we know. We know that they don't know. That's what we know. We know that they're making it up, and we're putting all these chemicals in our body. So the whole push for Kratom is to sell opioid drugs. We're now in an opioid crisis. A lot of people care and a lot of people don't. And tends to be the ones who care are the ones that are not making money on the sell of it. We have to get to a point where we just don't talk about stuff, right? Like it's good to know. It's good to know what we know. But if we're actually not changing our lifestyles to stop supporting these systems, which have nothing to do with anything else than abusing human beings' rights and making slaves out of them, or them dying, or letting them die. There's so much just bad stuff on this topic. I don't even know where to go with all of it. I posted something earlier. We were talking about what was his name? It was a brother. He got caught. He was 75. He was growing a couple dozen cannabis plants, and they put him in prison for life at 75. They basically put him in prison to die. And there was another kid who got caught raping. He raped someone. I think it was Stanford University, and he's already out of prison. I think they put him in for 3 or 6 months or something, and he's already out. So we're now a society that feels that violating a pharmaceutical company's profits is no, I'm saying that the wrong way. We now have finally elected a complete government that feels that rape is less of a crime than violating pharmaceutical companies' profits and growing some medicine for somebody. Think about that. Like, really think about that. Those of you who are women, those of you who have daughters, those of you who have mothers, which I hope is everybody. Rape is less of an issue. There are people who have murdered other people and got out of prison before anyone who violated a pharmaceutical company's profit scheme. At a certain point in time, we got to do something, right? And I talk about health a lot. Hey, Terry, good morning. I talk about health a lot because when it comes to sustainability, there's a lot related to our health, sustainability, and not supporting these slave-laden, rape-happy, murder-happy corporations. Stop taking their synthetic drugs. Please consider this. About a decade ago, the kids and I, we took our medicine cabinet and we threw it out. No more synthetic drugs were allowed in the house. And I haven't had a synthetic drug since. Now, I also haven't gotten sick since. something to that. That's why these are not, they're not side effects, they're effects. Why? Because what I just explained, none of this is natural, none of this is supposed to be in the human body, and all of it's an experiment. So I'm trying to bridge a link between a society that constantly takes Tylenol, right? Constantly takes their Advil, constantly takes it. Where do you think that money goes? That money goes to these big pharmaceutical synthetic chemical companies, because they're not medicine companies. Less than 20% of everything they make is actually medicine. It's just drugs. They're just synthetic drugs. To buy the DEA, to buy the politicians, to buy our government, to keep this murder, rape, opioid, slavery, police state marching on. Marching on. I'm happy to say that I don't support the industry. They haven't gotten $1 from me in over a decade. And I'm going to ask you to think about the same. You know, I said people, you know, they get a little funny when you start telling them that leaves solve problems, that holistic stuff doesn't work. It does work. The difference is in how you grow the plants, determines the compounds that are in them. And if you get the right mixture, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it depends on what you're eating and that it's not processed. So now we're going to talk about edibles for a minute, right? So a lot of the attack Kratom's getting is because I think there was one person, there might have been a few where they were taking a whole bunch of synthetic drugs and mixed it with Kratom and got in trouble. And of course that should get you in trouble for obvious reasons, but there was someone who ate an edible and I think he got sick and maybe he died. I believe is what I saw this morning. So there's a difference. Let's not confuse, and I'm not attacking the edible industry. What I'm saying is that there's a difference between a processed food and a non-processed food, because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about whether or not mint is healthy, whether or not mint is dangerous. We're talking about whether it's processed or if it's in natural form. Now, when you talk to the shaman and all the people who utilize these things, the vast majority, they grind them up. They put them in water. They eat them whole and natural, the way our bodies always ate them, whole and natural. Hopefully you see where I'm going with this in terms of eating it the way we've always eaten it. Cannabis cookie might be fun. You know what? Hold on. I think I have to say something real quick. Hold on. I should have said it at the very beginning of the video because I want you to understand who I am. If you're talking with me for the first time, I don't do anything that the DEA would consider a drug. I don't grow any of it. I don't do it, don't smoke it, never smoked it. I don't have anything to do with any of these things. It's important to say that because the first thing they try to do when you talk about this stuff is, you're a pothead, you want to smoke pot. No, I'm an intelligent person with a brain and I'll debate anybody on this topic. We can go down the synthetic drug topic, we can go down the naturopath topic. Because the fact of the matter is, I've already said everything you need to know to make anybody who thinks they know look stupid. Did you hear what I said? We evolved to eat natural things in natural forms and natural percentages. We did not evolve to eat any product that comes from any corporation and any laboratory. That's why people get sick. That's why you have all these side effects. So the other side I want to talk about is senior citizens, right? So we have an ailing population of senior citizens. Are we living longer than what we've ever lived? No, that's a lie. Remember, they can play statistics any way they want. We're definitely living sicker than what we've ever lived. We have a lot of senior citizens that live in a lot of pain. And because they can't grow their medicines, the ones who can't get away with it, they drink a lot of brandy. They drink a lot of alcohol, which in walks the other little murderous, rape-loving industry that all these systems feed together, all this greed feeds together. And so, of course, the alcohol industry has their lobby to keep these plants being made illegal because they want you drinking their product. They don't want you growing your own product. So at a certain point in time, you have to, and that's another thing. I don't buy alcohol. I haven't drank. I can't remember the last time I had any alcohol. I mean, I admit if I'm out casually, I might have something every couple years. And it's not that I wanted to give it up. It's the drugs I wanted to give. Synthetic drugs I wanted to give up because they were killing everybody. But we have to stop feeding these industries. But that's another thing. So senior citizen alcoholism is on the rise, and it's been on the rise because it's just easier to deal with the pain and throwing down a couple things of brandy at night to function so you can at least sleep through the night. And so there's so much. Then there's the mental illness that comes from that, right? You have the mental illness of people who are living in immense pain, right? People who, perhaps they lose their job because they fall into alcoholism because they're trying to get relief from the pain. Thank you, Grace. And that's it. Inflammation, right? So when you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you get a lot of inflammation. You got to get a lot of inflammation. You're taking a lot of drugs. Why? Because you have pain from the inflammation. You have other issues that come about from it. It's a natural response. Living natural is smart. One of the things I used to say to people is if it causes inflammation, don't eat it. Like, living healthy is very easy. It's very, very easy if you just look at your body. If it causes inflammation, it's an immune system response, which it's your body saying, this is not supposed to be in here. And this is one for my conservative friends who were just, Jeff Sessions, great guy, take your drugs, yes, outlaw the drugs. You need to study something called pharmacia, and you need to understand what it's not yours, our God, but sometimes I get confused. I'm not sure if we're all talking about the same Jesus Christ cat, but if it causes inflammation from a biological scientific perspective, it is something that's not supposed to be in the body. It's something your immune system has already targeted and says, I got to destroy this. This is not supposed to be in here. This has absolutely no benefit in me, and it goes after it. If it causes inflammation, don't eat it. From a religious perspective, it means that you're assaulting your temple. It means that this thing that God gave you, this meat cow thing that we walk around in, is offensive, and it's offensive to the very cells that God made that goes in your body. All synthetic drugs cause inflammation. All alcohol causes inflammation. And then get ready for this one. This one's going to hurt a little bit. All meat causes inflammation. This is why I don't debate with people when it comes to science and religion and this modern culture that walks them into offending their body, manufacturing disease in their body, and sin. This is why I love it. This is why I say religion and science, they're not different. I honestly believe that all the religions of the world were people who had certain truths wherever they came from. I think somebody came out the sky, but that's me. And they documented them and they put them into their culture for people to carry forward because they cared about the next generation. So you have all these things not to do. You don't know why not to do them. You don't really understand what they were saying, but you're not supposed to do them. So we got to step away from using drugs, right? If you get a headache, said it before, a headache is just a lack of hydration. Drink some damn water. 99% of the time, it's just a lack of hydration. Your brain is shrinking and it's pulling away at the nerves on your skull, and it causes pain, migraine, headaches. Drink water. Your body's telling you something. Learn to listen to your body. Being healthy and not supporting these unnatural, unsustainable industries and synthetic drugs and alcohol and all this stuff is about letting your body do what it does well. Your body lives well. There's nothing wrong with your body, people. Nothing wrong with your body. The human body is one of the most perfect machines ever constructed. But you gotta fuel it correctly with what is food, or what is not our cultural food today, but what has always been our food, what our bodies have always been exposed to. Then we talked about troop addiction. We talked about the troops coming home, helping to grow the opiates in Afghanistan, coming home, and they can't even get pain meds. They can't even grow their own pain meds to deal with the injuries that they receive serving their country. So it's not even about serving your country. All of these are just schemes to make money off of people who can't seem to stand up for themselves. And that, unfortunately, is where we are today. We can't seem to stand up for ourselves. We have a government, and we've always had a government that hates they don't hate the Constitution. And it's not that they don't respect necessarily states' rights. They don't. But they work for big businesses. We buy the products of these big businesses. And so the big businesses make sure that they buy enough of the politicians that will never do what you want them to do. Oh, and brother, I just said something. I want to make sure I'm watching what y'all are talking about. Brother Doug said, I can't believe all the people that do not think alcohol is a drug and protect alcohol because it's legal. Yeah. Well, and this is why, brother, I try to have very simple points. I've been talking to people about organic and natural living for a while now. And if you keep it simple, it makes sense. We've never, if we've never had it, then it's going to cause problems in our body. If we've had it, then our bodies evolved to deal with it. The problem is, it's always the things that we've never had that make a lot of the money. And so there's always an industry trying to get you to buy into these things. And if you're not buying into them because you're a generation that knows they don't work, you know it's snake oil, you know how it works, they create these DEAs and these police states to force you to buy their product. And that's all it is. Alcohol. So what is alcohol? Alcohol are grapes. They're old grapes, they're old wheat, whatever, you're getting it from. If you eat it naturally, it doesn't cause inflammation. No, I'm not talking about modern wheat. I'm talking about real wheat. The real wheat we always ate. And that's another good topic, how they bred wheat with grass and has the gliadin protein, which is what we never saw, which is why it causes all the problem. That's gluten, because we never ate it. If we evolved from cattle that grazed on those grasses, we wouldn't have celiac disease. We wouldn't have any issues eating the modern wheat that's bred with those things for higher yields. And so if you eat grapes, you're fine. You eat the wheat, you're fine. But if you age it too long, it concentrates. And the whole science, there are people here who can explain that deep level of science to you, but it becomes into a concentrated form. And while we might have eaten some old grapes sitting on the ground, we didn't eat a lot of them. And we have the genetic evidence to know, because if it causes inflammation, your immune system is a hell of a lot smarter than you and a hell of a lot smarter than your doctors. Listen to it. Trust it. And Diane, yeah, and then there's the glyphosate. And that's it, and so how all this feeds together when you look at the big chemical giants, right? Bayer just bought Monsanto. And so, in buying your headache medicine from Bayer and your pain meds and your foot rubs and all this stuff, you see a red mark on your body, you want to rub something on it, go talk to your doctor, you rub it on there. All this money feeds into taking your rights from you. You literally assault the Constitution by doing this. We're literally helping to fund these industries by constantly buying into unsustainable ideas. Instead, ask your doctor what it is, then go talk to your grandmother or your hippie or your holistic person or someone who has attachments to how we've been treating all of this stuff for thousands of years to solve it. I think that should be real simple. I started down the edible route. And so, not attacking edibles, but it's processed food. When you process it, usually our bodies don't recognize it. Same problem with processed foods in the grocery store. And then the other thing Sister Diane just said is right, is the glyphosate. 9 times out of 10, if it's processed, it means that the food companies, they can get something really, really cheap. The cheapest foods out there are the ones that are, they tend to have a lot of the glyphosate because they're genetically modified. Why are they the cheapest? Because, that must mean the GMOs work. No, the GMOs don't work. They're alien too. But what it means is that the same chemical companies that bought the government made sure they had legislation to make it almost free for farmers to grow. They almost pay farmers in the country to grow genetically modified corn and soybean because that's how corruption works. This is how it all feeds together. And so if you're eating something processed from the grocery store, you're always getting glyphosate. So not only are you eating it in an unnatural form, it's going to cause all kind of problems in your body that nobody on this planet are even qualified to tell you what the problems that it's going to cause. But you're also getting a dose of all the glyphosate. So the issue with the edibles is because all plants are different. All behind me, I got my lantana. There's an avocado and a couple other things, but there's some mint over there too. But every leaf has a different percentages of all these compounds. And if you take a whole bunch of them up, crush them all up, and put them in a cookie, you're going to get higher levels, dehydrate them, put them in alcohol, all the things they do to concentrate them. You're getting a different percentage of concentration all the time. So this is why every tribe had a shaman who knew what they were doing. But the problem is today, we don't have a shaman. They say, the doctor's the shaman. No, the doctor is not the shaman. The doctor works for the chemical companies. The doctor is the chemist. That's what they've become. We don't have shamans. Now, I think the naturopathic doctors are kind of starting to go back the way of the shaman. So we're starting, some states, I think, is it half the states now have actually licensed naturopathic doctors programs that are certified, which is great. So our tribe, our human tribe, we're starting to bring the shaman back. The shame is we murdered and killed a lot of them in third and fourth world countries because we wanted the land like Chiquita Banana to grow bananas on. And of course, Chiquita bananas are in every grocery store all over the United States. So we even support murder and slavery and everything with that too. But all of this nonsense kind of feeds together. I think the other issue I saw was, faking kratom and cannabis. Back when I was in college, they were talking about kids who were selling oregano as cannabis or whatever. And so people get these things, they try them, they eat them or whatever and say, oh, it didn't cause an effect. And so they eat a little more and that didn't really cause much, or they're like watered down or different percentages. And then they'll get a real one and it'll cause some sort of episode. Usually these natural things don't kill you. And why don't they kill you? Because your body knows them, your body recognizes them, and your body knows how to break them down and utilize them. So while you might be, going to town for a little bit, pretty quickly your body's going to remove it and you're going to get on with your day. It's like people talk about the psychedelics with the mushrooms. Why is that? They talk about the trips that they have. Is your body always gets rid of it. It's not like the side effect of a drug where it necessarily can kill you or cause some sort of a disease-like condition that you're going to deal with for the next 5 years of your life. Your body knows what to do with these things because they're natural. So now, what else was I doing? And so it's the building of these kingdoms. So the DEA, they're trying to outlaw kratom because they're building their kingdom. They don't hate the plant. They don't hate the leaf. But it's all about funding. They can get more money from the American population. They get more tax dollars if there are more drugs that are illegal. They are realizing that people are seeing the scam in terms of cannabis. There's a lot of good data out there. There's a lot of good research. And even the states have turned against them because now the states know how to make billions of dollars off of the sales of, pain meds for sick people who need them. So the states got their corruption going on. So the DA can't fight that. So they're either going to face some sort of a funding loss or they got to make more stuff illegal. So they're going to do everything they can to work with the pharmaceutical companies to get the pharmaceutical companies working on some new compound from some shaman they found somewhere and then make it illegal so you can't grow it. So this is how this all works. And what it is, it's a war on gardening. That's the other side of it, right? So you talk about the back end of it, of taking people who don't do what they say, who actually want to follow the Constitution and live their life or grow medicine for a mother, a friend, somebody who's in pain. They put them in prison. And that's the next form of slavery. And so consistently and constantly, we have a society of people that are largely in support of mostly everything they say they don't like. So we have to exit. Let me see what y'all are talking about. So I sometimes I'll get going and perhaps it's not making sense to everybody. I just think that if we continue to give these industries money, we're going to continue to have these problems. And the problems aren't going to stay balanced. They're going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Because you get to this point where you always think that your politician is going to do something for you, but they all get bought all the time, always, and they're constantly cranking up more of this march back to some sort of a feudalistic or totalitarian, authoritarian style police state and government. And even if it's not from a medical or health perspective, just from a kids getting shot in the street perspective, right? You know, why do we have so many problems with police and interactions? And some of y'all think it's the police. I don't care about the side effect of a problem. I care about the root cause. The root cause is we have politicians that are bought by these chemical giants. They've outlawed the Constitution. They take away freedoms. People try to live free and do what we've always done. And then you send a whole bunch of people with guns into trailer parks and ghettos, and kids get shot. Because that's always what happens when you send a whole bunch of people with guns to interact with people who are doing something that's free or doing something to survive. Right? You create an industry when you outlaw natural medicine, so now grandma can't grow it, you know, and if you're her grandson, okay, here's a good example. If your grandmother's in a lot of pain, and you see her going to bed every night, and she's just rolling over in pain, she can barely sleep, she's moaning throughout the night, she can't afford the drugs, she can't afford the synthetic drugs, do you A, let grandma live out the last years of her life in a lot of pain, or do you B, grow the medicine that grandma needs? I'm going to tell you, if you have a heart any damn where in your body, you're going to grow the medicine that grandma needs, the medicine that we've always had. And that's what you have, is you have a lot of kids who are in prison. You got a lot of grown folks in prison too, who were simply putting some love in the ground in the form of a seed to help somebody who's in a lot of pain. And for that, they're in prison. And why does this exist? Why is all of this here? It's because it's too important for you to fight for what you want for yourself, and not for you to come together with people across the board who can see that the Republicans are just as dirty and nasty as the Democrats. And the Democrats are just as dirty and nasty, bought out, sold out, paid for as the Republicans. And they get you guys fighting over things that have absolutely nothing to do with rape, murder, slavery, and all the things that they make a lot of money on. And so the ills of our society continue to get worse and worse and worse because they have you focused on yourself. They have you focused on your group. They have you locked into this era of extreme selfishness, of adults who only are concerned with what they can get instead of this, what all of this does to the next generation, what we're handing down. The next generation, you know, you think we're some slaves now. You wait till the next generation. They're going to have those kids walking around in shackles with the ignorance that you have, but you know, you got your little street credit, you got your little comment on Facebook or whatever, and it's just, we don't have political problems. We don't have political problems. We have human problems. We have people who can't seem to figure out that the next generation is more important than their street credit at the Vendeteria, arguing with somebody of an opposite party, of an opposite race, of an opposite religion at work. And that's why I don't deal with people like that. You see, I don't get into arguments. I'll post something, and it's usually somebody a heck of a lot smarter than me. Here's what's going on. These are just the facts. If you're an educated, intellect, adult with some love in your heart, and you can put things together in your head, you realize I shouldn't be supporting these things. Yeah, Sister Lynn, I'm worried for the kids. I'm worried. Well, you know what, Lynn, worried might be a strong word. I'm not so much worried. I believe, I have a lot of faith in this planet, and whatever you call it, you know, God, Buddha, whatever people want to call it, I'm good with. Things always work out. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people got to die when really unwise people are running things. But things always tend to work out. And I think this will work out too. But the great thing about the internet and the great thing about us having these discussions and talking is that we can prevent, you know, it's not like the past, you know, millions of people don't have to die for something good to happen. We can all talk and look at this and say, oh, okay, they're outlawing Kratom. Why are they doing it? They're outlawing Kratom because they have a whole bunch of new opioid drugs they want to sell. We can connect the dots. We're looking at the last 5 years in this country. There's an opioid crisis. People are dying for this. Opioids are bad. So what we need to do is we need to stop the DEA from banning Kratom, because this is one thing that people who are locked into heroin can use to get off of it. Also, we need to figure out what's going on with cannabis, because the states are like regulating it too far to a point where people can't get it. So we need to stop the DEA from doing this as well. You know, and if your brain is like really doing what it's supposed to, if you had your coffee, then, you know, it'll start telling you, why does this DEA thing exist? If every drug that they've outlawed, every compound that they've outlawed, have later proven to be very helpful to the health of a human being, why are they outlawing it? Look at their bylaws. Why do they exist? They exist to protect the population from dangerous drugs and dangerous compounds. If all the dangerous drugs and all the dangerous compounds, according to their definition, are the ones that help people the most, then this organization shouldn't exist. And that's the libertarian in me, and that's the Ron Paul coming out of me. Again, I look at things from a very logical, focused way. I try to. This is where I came from. If you say your purpose is A, and since your inception, all you've given us is B, then your purpose isn't what you're saying it was, or you really suck at your job. Either way, you shouldn't exist. And I think if our DEA can't get back on some sort of a logical, helping people perspective instead of just helping out the pharmaceutical companies, then we need to get rid of them. And the next politician that steps up who says, let's get rid of them, we all need to be behind them. We all need to be sharing that out. And this is, you know, what I talked about before is, you know, what is your role? So, you know, I don't know. Maybe you're on some medication you can't get off. You know, maybe it allows you to get out of bed in the morning. I'm not saying stop taking it overnight. I'm saying get on the phone with your local hippie. Everybody has a local hippie. You know, call someone who's involved in that natural path. And ask them, you know, what can I do to get off of this medication? I don't know. Let's say the medication is a statin drug. What can I do? Do I just stop? No, you don't just stop, because a lot of these drugs like statins, they change how your body works. They actually change what's produced in your liver. And if you just stop taking the statin drugs, which is a huge one for cardiovascular disease, you'll die. You know, you can get, I forgot the name of the condition, and you can die. But what they can do is they can prescribe to you herbs that you can take, things that you need to stop eating to start to balance out your cholesterol and start reducing, getting off. And you go back to your doctor and you say, Doc, I need to get off these statin drugs. I know the long-term effects are muscle damage and Alzheimer's and all these horrible things I don't want, memory loss, dementia. So I don't want to take these for a lifelong. Besides the fact you're chemical chemist, you're not really a doctor, you're not really a shaman, you're crazy, love you to death, and you can help me diagnose problems, but I don't need you when it comes to health. I want to get off of these medications. I want to stop supporting these pharmaceutical industries that are doing everything they can to destroy society for a buck. Not because they're evil, but simply because that's what they do. Somebody posted something about the AMA, so let me go back up. I was able to get a laugh at the end of that. That was a tough one. You start talking about, someone said something about the AMA, and I'm sorry, I have to go back later. I'm panning up, and I missed it. So, but the AMA, what is the AMA? Well, the AMA are a group of hired chemists who work for the pharmaceutical companies, and they're paid by pharmaceutical companies. They come up with the standard care and practice, and they make sure that all the doctors don't do anything having to do with healing, that they all stay on the path of selling the chemicals for the pharmaceutical companies, because that's who they are. So that when you go to your doctor, even if your doctor's informed and they don't take the drug, because a lot of your doctors don't even take the drugs that they sell, they're required to tell you to take them. They have a standard care and practice, and they have to tell you about boop, boop, boop. And if they don't, they can have their license taken. Okay, there it is right there. Diane said the AMA's first task, make people fear homeopathy. History of medicine is pretty interesting. Yeah, you know what? And it is, and I started to look at it, Diane, and that's what they do. And this is what they're doing with Kratom, right? They're getting you to fear it. People are dying. People are dying. They said when we were looking at this last year on the website, it said something about 15 people had died from Kratom, and they went back and they looked at it and they realized all 15 of them, they died because they were taking something else in Kratom. It's because they weren't using it how we always have used it. And so I think the other thing the AMA does with that, Diane, if they can get rid of the people who actually know how to use our natural medicines, then it means that people will accidentally take something with something else. They'll take soda with Pop Rocks and die. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but when I was growing up, it was a thing. Don't take Pop Rocks or soda, you're going to die. Probably because the soda and the Pop Rocks, their lobbies were real. They didn't have enough lobbies to buy the politician at that point. Lisa said, you know, all matter, I'm drinking a little coffee, I get a little tongue tied. You know, all subject matters end with profit. We need to rid ourselves of that disease. Lisa, you and I, 99.99% of the time, we always agree. If there's profit to be made, we're going to have a problem with it if the society is based on a profit model. And that's why we're going to talk about Peter Joseph. If I can, probably not today, tomorrow, later this evening, I'm going to start walking through and breaking down some of the newest things Peter Joseph's talking about. No, there's absolutely no illegal drugs anywhere around me. You're not going to find them. I got, you know, I have a big sun porch. I have all my plants out there. I have my bright lights on, shining down. I'm growing all types of plants. I grow everything from Djibouti Kava to citrus. I got all my mints. I still got tomatoes going. I got peppers. I like to grow lantanas. I got lots of bougainvillea. I grow a whole lot of plants, and I got them all in in my sun porch. I got my grow lights down there, and every now and well, they know me now. It wasn't not now, but when I first did it, the police, they're not sneaky. I know them brothers. They come up, like, what the hell? What is this dude doing? You know, I saw him in the back of that, looking in the back of the house, trying to see if there was anything in the window, walking on my property. But that's okay. You know, if you talk about these things, you can't do these things because that's how they get you. Right? One of the things I do like to say also is always listen to the man with the gun. Always listen to the government with the drones. Always listen to the society that has people that keep voting for the politicians that put the Praetorian police in place. If you're going to talk out, if you're sick and you need these medicines, then you need to go take those medicines. But you don't need to talk about them. You don't get caught up in the prison system. Don't get caught up in the legal system. That's a place for people who don't have those needs. If you have those needs, keep that to yourself. Move to a state where you can do that, or go to a country where you can do that. But this is not the place, and it's not the time. These politicians are not playing. This is not a game. This is not a Democrat, Republican, left, right, conservative, nothing issue. This is a pure profit scheme, and they convinced a lot of people who believe in science and who believe in a God to embrace some really stupid, unwise, evil practices so corporations can make a whole lot of money. Chris, you said you just got off of statin drugs. I love to hear that. I love to hear that, and congratulations. I actually had a long conversation with a doctor. I didn't know the person was a doctor. We were talking about the statin drugs, and I had the book, The Cholesterol Myth, which is a great book if you know anybody that has issues with, they're taking statin drugs or has issues with cardiovascular disease. Buy them for Christmas, The Cholesterol Myth. And I had to explain to a physician, which again, I didn't know. I just like to talk about the facts. This is why you never lie, because you never know who you're talking to, and always know what you're talking about or say you think. And by the end of the whole 30-minute conversation, he was trying to catch me in places, and you know, you're not going to catch me because I'm not going to lie. And his wife said, well, honey, tell him who you are. Honey, tell him. And it's like, she got sick of the conversation. He was like, yeah, well, I'm a physician. And I said, you didn't know this? You didn't know that sugar was the cause of cardiovascular disease? And he said, well, he said in medicine, he says, you know, we're only given 7 hours on health, 7 hours on nutrition, so we wouldn't know that. And of course, he, you know, it was a great thing. I gave him the book and things moved on, but not even the doctors know. And it's not really their fault. That's why I'm not anti-doctor. You know, we have systems that don't work for people. They don't work for the human being because we keep supporting for them not to work for us. You know, when we go to our doctors, you know, It's like people, the pharmaceutical industry is so evil. Well, they are evil, but they're evil with friends, right? And who are their friends? Us. How are we their friends? Because when you go to your doctor, what do you say? Do you say, "Doc, give me a medication that might work over a month, give me something naturally to heal my body, and I'll just live with the pain for now"? No, you don't. You go to the doctor and say, "I got tennis tomorrow, I got golf tomorrow, I got to go to work tomorrow. Give me something that will make me feel better right now." And that fuels these pharmaceutical chemical companies. And so demand meets supply, right? We demand to feel better immediately, and that's why they supply them. And this is why I think Kratom is under attack with cannabis and any other pain meds, because the pain meds are at the top, right? Because if the herbalist is giving you something to heal your condition, while you're going through that healing, while your body's doing what it has to do, you need something to handle the pain, right? And this is where Kratom comes in, and cannabis, and all the pain, natural pain leaves. Because if you can take those, you don't feel the pain, your body's natural healing, you're back on your feet in a week. You're back to doing what you have to do. But if they take out the natural pain meds, which is why they target these plants, it means that you're gonna be in pain. And if you're gonna be in pain, most people don't do pain, right? Most people, I think, would go a holistic way if there were no pain in their healing. But because there's pain in the healing, they're not going to go that route. They're going to tell the doctor to give them the pain meds, and that's why they come after that's why they're coming after Kratom, and that's why they're perfectly okay with the opioid crisis. They're perfectly okay with all these Americans dying. They don't give a damn. It's just about money. They are evil, but it's not based in evil. It's just based in profit. Susan, yeah, people control people, and that's what it's always been about. It's about human farming. They've been farming human beings since the beginning of time, and that's what all these systems, they all feed together, and that's the purpose for all of them. And that's why I say eject yourself. You want to, people, sometimes, well, what do you do? What do you do? Just talking. No. What do? You eject yourself from the society. I am a firm believer, and at this point in time, we have to unplug. I'm a firm believer, because there's too many. These systems all feed together. They all work together. I mean, as an example, Coca-Cola. I don't know. I'm throw them out there. Coca-Cola could make $1 billion in sales to prison systems around the world because they've got the little Coca-Cola that's being sold in the vendeteria, in the commissary. I don't know. And so Coca-Cola will actually fund to help private prisons, because they'll get a drop in revenue if people stop going to prison and they stop living there for 30, 40 years of their lives. All of this stuff feeds together, and we don't know who's with who supports who, and people want to yell Bernie, and they want to Trump and Obama, Clinton, whatever, but you don't know who works for who. You don't know the back deals, all the stuff that comes out. Oh, the corruption's coming out. No, it's not. It's not. If you're smart enough to realize the really corrupt people, the really dirty systems where the money is really made, that'll never come out. It's not written down. It's not in a database. It's not even a bank transaction. They know how to hide this stuff. We only find out as much as they want us to find out. So if you want to know what to do, how to get away from all of this bad stuff, you got to unplug. You have to stop buying so much. You have to unplug yourself. At a certain point in time, you want to think about living in a more peaceful environment, perhaps moving off grid. And if not that, just at least cut the drugs down. If you take a Tylenol every morning, if you're that crazy, and Tylenol is not one of the worst, probably Bayer or aspirin are probably worse, but I think Tylenol comes from the bark of a tree. Don't quote me on that. I'm thinking that's the one that's not as bad. But maybe you don't take it every morning. Maybe drink a little more water so you don't have to take it. And if we start hitting them in their pockets, they get less power. They buy less politicians, which means people get a little more say, and eventually maybe a Democrat or Republican can run the country again. And that's all I care about. I don't care who runs the country as long as you live here, right? That's sustainability. The people who are making the laws for the land actually have to be people subject to those laws, which is why the ruling elites are not subject to our laws. They can do anything they want. Thank you, Brother Paul. I think it's an interesting topic. It's a little scary, but I think it's interesting, and to me, it's something that we got to pay attention to, because all of these things we've always eaten, and they're going to keep outlawing them if we don't say anything. If we start hitting pharmaceutical companies in their pocket, if we start hitting chemical companies in their pocket, we can get back to a point where we eat the natural medicines, the natural leaves that we've always eaten. There's nothing magical about leaves. I know we all got those psychedelic friends. No. There's nothing magical in a leaf. It's simply because your body knows what it is, because it's always eaten it, which is why you need to go with the natural medicines as opposed to the synthetics. So let me look at a few comments, and I'm going to shut down because I got to get on that plantation. Yeah, okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, aspirin is made from a bark. And that's what I heard, is that aspirin was one of the more natural ones. And so aspirin is less harmful. But in terms of, you know, profit and who we're funding, still buying these things on a regular basis, it's still why we don't have a constitution, right? It's still why we don't have civil rights, why we don't have states' rights, why we can't live the lives we need to, why people can't have property without government always coming down on them and Big Brother and watching everything, because we keep feeding the industries that's causing the problem. All right, well, listen, I've got to go get my cotton bag and get to picking, because I'm doing my best to not feed into these industries. I actually have made a lot of life changes, for those of you who are curious. But anyway, if you didn't see the video, you can go back, start at the beginning. What we were talking about was just Kratom. So they're trying to schedule one Kratom, and the whole point again is they're building a kingdom. They make more money by making these things illegal, and it's just another natural leaf that we've eaten for millions of years, and we only discovered they were medicine a couple thousand years ago, and now they want to outlaw them because they're a way to avoid pain while bodies naturally heal. Most illnesses, y'all, most diseases do go away if you just eat real natural food, a lot of raw food, and you have some sort of pain leaf that you can take while your body naturally does what it's always done. If the human body was this sick, you guys, we would have died out a long time ago. The human body is not this sick. They convince you that it's sick. They convince you that something's wrong with your body, so they can convince you to buy their product. Their products haven't been here since the beginning of the planet. They don't need to be here. You don't need to take them. We have to go back to the natural life. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Love y'all. Bye-bye.